Good evening, raw dealers. This is Azrath Strife back yet again. Luckily, I've been able to manage to keep a consistent schedule and really enjoying doing this. Again, I want to thank everybody that's subscribed, commented, give me any kind of feedback on these videos. It's meant a lot to me. Allows me to kind of focus better and make these videos better and keep up my creativity and keep up my drive and my energy to keep doing this. So this one I had a poll up on our Discord. There were 4 decks. This one kind of to not my surprise. One because apparently when you put meme in an option, people are going to pick that one. So this is a deck that I had randomly started thinking of when I was looking at all of his superstar cards. I'm like, I just want to build like a meme deck that has, it's not one win condition, but the win condition that it has, if it works, is hilarious. So I bring you Stone Cold Meme Austin. That's going to be our superstar, Stone Cold Steve Austin, from the premiere set. So going way, way back in the time machine. Um, his ability and values are good, 7-5. His superstar ability, this one doesn't really matter because we're going to change it in the pre-match. But drawing an additional card and then putting one from your hand on the bottom is was good at the time, and not so much anymore. So for his superstar specific backstage cards, we have Austin 316. So this is letting us draw an additional card during each of our draw segments, up to, so we don't have to. We have the option. And then we can hide it to put 3 copies of a superstar specific maneuver removed from the game or in our ringside pile underneath one of our pre-matches. Draw 1 card, shuffle 6 cards from our ringside pile in our arsenal, and then when the next card played is a superstar specific maneuver, we can ignore the can only be played text. So this is going to be really great and will make a lot more sense once we get into the pre-match and we see what that bionic kicking machine does. Then still drinking beer and raisin hell. Um, we're not the Rattlesnake, so we don't need that one. But your Stone Cold Steve Austin specific mid-match actions can only be reversed by unique reversals, and you get to replace strike, grapple, or submission on your superstar specific reversal cards with non-trademark finisher, and ignore the strike text on your Luthez press. We are not running Luthez press, neither the original nor the throwback. But this does affect some of our superstar specific reversals that are reverse a strike, grapple, or submission. Now they're going to reverse any non-trademark finisher, which is a great change. Then, as always in our standard, we are running 5th, 10th autograph session, signing appearance, and backstage signature. Again, we are probably revealing all of these because this deck will theoretically be immune to backstage shenanigans, so we're okay with that. We don't need to reveal any other ones like Hometown Hero or Pulled Some Strings to get my match, because we're not going to need those. But probably going to reveal all 5 of these plus your superstar specific ones. So, going into our pre-match, Stone Cold Steve Austin has a ton of superstar specific pre-matches. So, let's just dive into them. Broken Skull Ranch. This is a venue that we can play regardless of our opponent's venue, so that's why we don't need Hometown Hero. At the end of the pre-match phase, we draw up to 3 cards, and then put the same number of cards from our hand, 1 card from removed from game, and up to 6 cards from a ringside pile on the bottom of our arsenal. So that's already great, and why I wanted to go with some of the pre-match choices that I went with this build. When you're Stone Cold Steve Austin, which we are, your stunner are multi and action trademark finishers instead of action multis. When you have 3 copies of that card in your ring, your Stone Cold Stunner cannot be reversed from Backlash deck or Arsenal. I hope we're starting to see where the meme win condition came in, because that's one of the key cards to it. But this pre-match is great. I didn't know anything because I had stopped playing probably by the time Stunner had come out, so I didn't know what that card did. And some of the virtual support that Stone Cold got was great. Our feud, I said this in the game video, but I love the throwbacks of these feuds that gave you the ability that the original feud did, but it allowed you to actually play it against every superstar, but it gave you a drawback. So, um, this one, uh, if you're playing it as Stone Cold Steve Austin, you do have to reduce your pre-match slots by one, which sucks. The Rattlesnake doesn't have to, but we're not the Rattlesnake. But this changes our ability to, during our draw segment, draw one additional card. So, every turn we can draw 3 cards. Up to 3. We're going to draw 2. That's pretty powerful in Raw Deal. I'm not going to lie. Drawing a lot of cards can be really, really strong. Other than that, very simple. We're not the Rattlesnake, so we don't care about that line of text. Our stipulation is going to be old school wrestling match. We're going to be playing a lot of superstar specific actions if we're not playing maneuvers. We don't want turns skipped. I'm not calling him out by name, but there's a friend that I play with who loves Pat and Jerry, and I no longer do. So I've started packing old school wrestling match in some more of my decks, but this one it made a lot of sense for because I'm not really going to be punished by the effect, the overturn effect, and I stopped turns from getting skipped, which is why we're okay revealing all of those backstage cards. Then our first pre-match has to be the undisputed title. Me and my friends in our playgroup, we have a fair number of decks that run this belt, so we have matchups that are very much determined by who goes first and who can get this belt. And if you don't get this belt, it can be a bit of an uphill climb. But it was too important to not include in this deck. And a lot of times, if we're just playing casually, like we'll make sure we don't put those decks up against each other, unless we're trying to really see if we can do it. So what it does is, I explained it in the game video, your superstar specific cards don't take up pre-match or mid-match slots in your ring, and your opponent can't play I'm going to break you. So all of our superstar specifics don't take up slots, and we've already played 2 just before we got to the first event. So now we're going into Bionic Kicking Machine. This is the card that was referenced on Still Drinking Beer and Raisin Hell, I believe. No, I'm sorry. It was on Austin 316. So, when we play this, we search our arsenal for up to 3 superstar specific cards with kick in the title. I'm going to give you a hint. There's only one. We reveal them and put them under this card. We can play cards from under this card as if they're from hand, and they can only be reversed by unique reversals. When a card under this card is successfully played, we get to search our arsenal for Stunner, reveal it, and put it in our hand. Replace the can only be text with cannot be reversed when on Stunner. And I'll make sure I go back to this card once we get to Stunner, so that we can kind of see how the card is being changed. But the only maneuver in this deck that this card can go search for originally is Austin's patented kick to the gut. We put 3 of them under here. Now, I'm not going to lie, this deck is very susceptible to restricted use in this area. But because of this card already making us susceptible to it, I decided to lean kind of hard into it and go with other maneuvers that are also going to be restricted, so that our opponent only gets 1 restricted, unless they're test. The Bionic Redneck, the end of the pre-match phase, you get to put a maneuver card from Rings of Power in your hand. Really simple. It's raw, and it doesn't take up a slot as long as we have the belt. What? Sorry, I kind of get into character sometimes when I play this deck. When this card's in your ring area, during your turn, you can ace it to put it in your ring pile. You look at your opponent's backlash deck and choose a non-reversal card, and he discards the chosen card. When the card titled DTA is in your ring, you get to choose any card. Now, DTA throwback costs 2 fortitude, if I remember correctly. Yes. So, if we can get 2 fortitude and ace this card, we can get rid of their restricted use, which is very, very good. And DTA is not super easy to reverse, and you'll see that once we get to it. But this card is great. We are running the Smoking Skull title belt because we're Stone Cold Steve Austin. Why wouldn't we? And we can play it because it doesn't have heavyweight or WWE in the title. It is just the Smoking Skull title belt. Um, at the end of the pre-match phase, we get to search our arsenal for 2 different non-unique maneuvers, reveal them to our opponent. Your opponent chooses one, you put that card in your ringside pile, and then you put the other card into your hand. So, we're going to get 2 maneuvers that we would like. Because with Bionic Redneck, we're most likely going to get both of them. That's great. And if we're Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Rattlesnake, or Revolution Stone Cold Steve Austin, we start the game regardless of superstar value or card effects. So, um, Deadman Inc. with the motorcycle that says you start the game, Roddy Piper, all those superstars that have you start the game, doesn't matter. We start the game. Playing by the rules, we are a face deck. I've said this in a couple of my other videos. This card is just so good for face decks. This card specifically, I think, made face decks on the level of heel decks, um, and in some instances even better. So there's no reason to not pack this card. It doesn't take up a slot in your ring. It punishes no-show, makes your opponent's reversals more fortitude, and makes yours less. So hold on, it's not time to show yet. This is to shut off showtime because we want to go first. And the ace is pretty good. If we have lower fortitude, we get to shuffle cards from our ringside pile equal to our superstar value. I believe it's our printed superstar value. Yeah, printed superstar value, and then draw 2 cards. So we're a 5, so we'll get to shuffle 5 cards. And then draw 2. Giving them high fives. So really simple card that is from way back when. Overturn 5, and you get to put 1 in your hand at the end of the pre-match. So we're going to overturn 5. We're going to get 2 maneuvers, so we're putting 1 maneuver in there. We get to pick up any maneuver, and after we're done doing that, we get to shuffle up to 6 cards from our ringside pile into our arsenal. So it's basically like we never really overturned for this card. So that's why I did that one. Then interviewed by Mean Gene Okerlund. This card is really, really strong, and I'm not even playing the optimal version of it. So it has a lot of like can't be packed by X people. We're just gonna skip that part. When packing this card, the cards listed on this card are unique, permanent, and ignore the can only be played text. Your opponent cannot respond to good things sometimes happen, offer handshake, turn the tide, turn up the heat, well-deserved push, and who booked this match. Cannot respond is the most powerful effect in this game. Your opponent cannot do anything to those cards. So, that's really good. And we are running a couple of them. We're not running Good Things Sometimes Happen, because if you run Good Things Sometimes Happen, you're kind of obligated to run Pat and Jerry, and I kind of went over that I don't like Pat and Jerry, and we're running Old School Wrestling Match, so that doesn't really do us any good anyway. So that's our pre-match. We're going to go ahead and do our mid-match. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. Reach exceeds your grasp, restricted use in this area. Say it in every video. Just make sure you're packing it, because if you don't, you're going to lose more games than you're going to win. Turn up the heat. This is on interviewed by Mean Gene. So we have to discard a reversal card, but when we do, the next card played this turn is a maneuver of 5 damage or less. It can't be reversed, but after damage is applied, we end our turn. So this is just another way to get some easy fortitude, which is always important. We are a meme deck, but we are still a real deck. We are still trying to win the game. We just happen to have funny ways to do it. The main maneuver that we have in here is why there is a one of full Nelson Slam throwback in this deck. Do you want to hug? This card is weird. So it blanks Hell in a Cell for the turn, and then when our fortitude rating is less than our opponent's, and we have fewer cards in hand than him, we're most likely not going to have that happen. But he discards number cards where number is equal to the number of cards he has in his hand greater than you. So if I have 7 and my opponent has 10 and I play this, he has to discard 3 cards. When your fortitude rating is greater than your opponent's, he discards his hand. Now, this is that effect has been shenanigans to your opponent discards half of his hand rounded up. Rounded, I believe it's up. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I don't have the shenanigans in front of me. It might be down. But either way, your opponent discards half of their hand. And then you choose number of cards from their ringside pile and put them into his hand, where number is equal to the number of cards discarded. So, if our opponent has 8 cards, they discard 4 cards at random, and then we go into their ringside pile and give them 4 cards. So we're basically potentially swapping out half of the best cards in their hand for possibly cards that are not going to be helpful to them in the matchup. This is a superstar specific, so this one I believe it is this one. Can only be reversed by unique reversals. So they can't volley this it. They can't, you know, no chance in hell. They can't use those non-unique reversals on them. They can restrict it and make it so that you can, but that's just another target that they're restricted would need. DTA throwback. It's 2 fortitude. It cannot be reversed when Bionic Redneck is in your ring. So it's a mid-match action that cannot be reversed and can only be reversed by unique reversals. So if your opponent does not have restricted use, they basically can't answer this card. Except for I think unintended consequences. The sidewalk slam, the reversal that's basically like a sidewalk slam, and same with backhand slap throwback. This card is not easy to reverse. But we get to look at our opponent's hand and then shuffle 4 cards from our Rings of Power to arsenal. But the main thing is then we can ace what? We've looked at their hand, so we can see if they have a don't try. If they don't, we can ace what and get rid of their restricted. And that's the bottom line. So it's 18 fortitude because we're not 2-man power trip. But reverse any... Now, remember, it's been changed. We reverse any non-trademark finisher maneuver and end our opponent's turn, and we search our ringside pile and arsenal for the card title because Stone Cold said so, reveal it, put it in our hand, and shuffle the arsenal. We are not running that card, but this is a great mid-match reversal. We're running King Interferes because we're a raw deck, and we generally just want another reversal out of our mid-match. Reverses any foreign object or maneuver of 10 damage or greater. Sustained damage. We're gonna have a lot of cards in our hand, so we want to make sure that we're putting those cards to use when we're not using them to actually reverse anything or play the maneuvers that we have. So we can discard to just make sure that we're not taking as much damage. The Sex the Gods, the Freaks, the Frauds. I talked about this card in the game. This card is amazing. We discard a card, draw 2, so we're going +1 for cards in our hand. We get to shuffle 3 cards that were removed from game back into our arsenal, which is really good when you have cards like Divine Intervention. We look at our opponent's hand, choose up to 4 cards, and we can have them shuffle those cards in, and then if we did that, then they can draw the same number. Crucifix Roll-Up Throwback. This is specifically in here because I am tired of WrestleMania. I am tired of getting WrestleMania'd by basically a bunch of decks. So I decided I'm going to start packing this card so that when my opponent tries to use their WrestleMania, if they're a non-legend or it's if they're a non-legend or they try to continue their game with a non-printed superstar specific card, I can Crucifix Roll Up and cancel the effect and win the game. That's the sole reason that I decided to run this. It's great. It's great that it has another effect that you can discard it from your Backlash deck to draw a card, as long as you have your opponent has 10 more fortitude than you. So it's not super dead all the time, and you can discard it to draw a card. Turning everything upside down, I mentioned I like running this card more than Cow because it's a great action. Um, the action part is a little less relevant in this deck, but we still have a few actions that have damage of 3 to 0, that do things while they're in our ring area. So that's perfectly okay for us to overturn, even to just get some fortitude. And then Road to Victory. I never want to be asked if I have this card and not have it. So I generally pack it more often than I don't, and you can always discard it to draw a card. All right, so we're going to go, as we always do, into our reversals. I'm going to kind of move through these pretty quickly because a lot of them are cards that we've already seen in some of my earlier videos. So get the F out, virtual staple, a lot of multi-maneuvers, a lot of unique maneuvers, so we can just make sure that multi-cards and unique maneuvers, we can reverse them with this card. No Cell Maneuver reverses any maneuver, but we do have to discard 2 cards to reverse it. Once is enough and Sloppy Very Sloppy. They are face staples. Stops any multi-maneuver, or if a copy of a maneuver that your opponent already has, a copy of a card, if your opponent already has that card title in their ring. And then Sloppy Very Sloppy is reverse any card when played from hand. If you have Once is Enough in your ring area, you can overturn Sloppy Very Sloppy instead. And it is 10 Fortitude because of playing by the rules. 2 Step Asides, 2 Escape Moves, and 1 Reach for the Ropes. I generally do these 3 together because we are running the counter package. 2 Volley Thises because we wanted action reversals, and we're okay with the removal to this card. And because we can play our maneuvers from underneath Bionic Kicking Machine as if they're from hand, we're okay with this card. Now some spice. Enziguri Throwback. So as a maneuver, if we have less fortitude than our opponent, it's -3, so it's a 5 for 8. But as a reversal, when overturned, reverse any strike maneuver. When there's a card in your ring area with the word kick in the title, you can play it from hand. We're just going to go way back over here. That sure does look like it has kick in the title. So, because of this card, we can play an 8 for 8 strike reversal that most people aren't expecting you to pack, which is this card. In the couple of games that I've played with this deck, I have played this card as a reversal in all of them. It's just, I love playing it, and it gives you just a nice spike in fortitude. Don't try this at home. We needed an ace reversal. Then our virtual staples, in my opinion, of Mr. Chance, Douchebag, Divine Intervention, Carlito. You'll notice I'm missing Raw Deal Revolution in here. I think that was actually just a slip up on my part. I probably should have it in this deck. There's no reason that it's not. There's no special reason that it's not. But I've managed to make it work without it in the deck games that I've played. But if you wanted to add it, absolutely nothing wrong with that. That card is very good. It's great to be back here in. So this is allowing us to get around can only be reversal restrictions. And then if we have a venue in our area, when we play this, the next turn, the first card we play is -10 Fortitude. And because we have Broken Skull Ranch, we're always going to have a venue in our ring. But it's not enough to run it at 2, so I generally run it at 1. Great for cards like, Shoot Lockup, German Suplex Throwback, cards like that. Get Out of Here allows us to pick up our Get the F Outs, and it reverses maneuvers equal to the whose damage is equal to the number of removed from game cards on both in both players' piles. Counter Throw, Counter Hold, Counter Assault. I mentioned that we're running these. I love these cards a lot because they get you Fortitude on overturn. They're permanent, and they're considered D0 for card effects, which is great. And they count as 2 reversals when overturned. Double digits. I know this is a little hard to see. I apologize. But it reverses, because of our Backstage card, it reverses any non-trademark finisher maneuver. Our opponent discards 2 cards and overturns 2 cards. It's 0 fortitude. This card's amazing. Like, in my opinion, one of the best reversals in the game. Don't Trust Nobody. It's a 9 fortitude. Reverse any non-trademark finisher maneuver and end your opponent's turn. You may look at their hand. It's a little more lackluster when compared to double digits. But before the Backstage card came out, this was his high-risk reversal, because this didn't hit high risks. So those are my reversals. Can't think of anything that I would really change up. So going into our actions, we're gonna start right with Stunner. This is what made the deck a meme deck for me. So it's an action multi. It's a 4 for 3 fan favorite with 1 stun. Now I'm gonna read the text of the card and then I'm gonna show you what's different. So it says can only be played after the card titled Patented Kick to the Gut. Patented Austin Kick to the Gut. Search your arsenal and ring for the card titled Stone Cold Stunner. Reveal it to your opponent, put it in your hand, and for the rest of the turn, you can play it regardless of fortitude rating. My whole goal with this deck was to just stunner somebody 5 times. Well, it wouldn't be 5 times. Well, if you count the stunners as stunners, it could be 6 times. So the thing that has changed on this with our pre-match cards is it's now an action trademark finisher, and when it's played after Austin's Patented Kick to the Gut, it cannot be reversed. We no longer have a can only be played text on this card, which is great. We can just hit it out of nowhere, much like Stone Cold Steve Austin did. But yeah, the whole reason that I built the deck was to go Patented Kick to the Gut, stunner, into a stunner, into a stunner, into another stunner, into another stunner. Yeah, because, I'm a child. Unleash Hell. It's a 16 fortitude action that is minus 13 if we have less fortitude than our opponent, so if we're playing from behind. But we put 5 cards from our hand on top of our arsenal, shuffle double that many cards from our rings of power into our arsenal, and then draw the same number of cards we shuffled in. So we can put up to 5, shuffle up to 10, draw up to 10. That's pretty great. And we can do it as low as 3 fortitude. Rattlesnake rules. Again, I apologize, some of these images are hard to see. But we draw a card, and the next card we play this turn cannot be reversed. Real simple, 7 fortitude. This was an old promo, if I remember correctly. Open up a can of whoop ass. This card is still bonkers, I'm telling you that right now. 2 fortitude, draw a card. Your next maneuver played this turn is plus 6 damage, and your opponent's reversals to it is plus 20 fortitude. Plus 20 fortitude's a lot. Like a lot. And generally, if you hit a douchebag into this, your opponent isn't reversing your next maneuver. That's great. Give me a hell yeah. 6 fortitude. You draw up to number of cards where number is equal to the number of superstar specific cards in your ring. Number cannot be greater than 6. So we already get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This one counts itself when you play it, so 6. We're already drawing 6 cards off of this card. Walk It Dry. Can only be played when the card titled Stomp a Mudhole is in your ring. You discard 1 card, shuffle up the number of cards from your exile pile into your arsenal, and your opponent overturns the number of cards where number is equal to your superstar value. So we go 5, 6, 10, 12. So if this is successful, we discard 1 card, shuffle 12 cards from our rings of power into our arsenal, and our opponent overturns 12 cards. Oof. Then we're going into our Mean Gene package. Turn the Tide. Because if we don't have to have less fortitude than our opponent because of Mean Gene, but it's generally a play from behind mechanic. We get to swap fortitude with our opponent for 1 card, and it can't be reversed. So if I have 20 fortitude, or if your opponent has 20 fortitude and you have 0, you can play Turn the Tide and play a maneuver of 20 fortitude or less, and it cannot be reversed. That's pretty great. You only get to play 1 of these because they're unique, but yeah, it can't be responded to, which is important. Who booked this match throwback? It's 2 Fortitude. Your opponent can't respond to this card. You either get to draw 2 cards or your opponent discards 2 cards. It's pretty good. I enjoy this card. And then well-deserved push. Shuffle 4 cards from your opponent or from your ringside pile into your arsenal, or choose a mid-match card from your ringside pile and place it back into your backlash. Can be great if they reverse DTA, or if they've managed to hit one of your reversal, like your bottom line or king. I want to check something. Yep, designers thought about that one. Your E6 your grasp has an ace that allows you to get out of the volley lock, um, but you have to remove it from the game. It's not discarded, so you can't put it back. Smart thinking, guys. So those are my actions. Going into the maneuvers is kind of light, but we get to search for a lot of them. Patented Awesome Kick to the Gut. We're going to put 3 of these underneath Bionic Kicking Machine. When we play them from underneath that card, they can only be reversed by unique reversals. And it's -3 Fortitude, +4 damage when the Bionic Redneck's in our ring. So it's a 0 for 8. And with successfully played, you may draw a card, and your next maneuver played this turn is -6 Fortitude. So that's pretty great. I actually feel like I'm missing something in this deck. Give me a moment, guys. I want to check something. There it is. I noticed something was missing. I apologize, guys. Thank you. Then we're running. Sorry, just want to go back. So this card, 0 for 8. And then if we play Stunner after this card can't be reversed. So you kind of see where the Patent Kick to the Gut into Stunner, into the Stone Cold Stunner. If you have another Stunner, then maybe try to get the other Stunner through so that you pick up the Stone Cold Stunner to play it again. And yeah, that's kind of where the meme came from. German Suplex Throwback. We are running some more of those harder to reverse maneuvers because we're not running as many. We want to make sure that the ones we are throwing are going to stick. So when we play it as a counter, basically is what the terminology became. When it's your first card played of the turn, and you reverse the card from your hand and your opponent's last turn, this card can only be reversed from backlash deck or arsenal. So your opponent can't reverse it from hand. It's a 4 for 8. So just another nice bridge maneuver. Precision Kick. So the way the precision maneuvers work is they all have some kind of effect that allow them to reduce their own fortitude cost. But like this one is your opponent, you get to name a number 5 or less. Your opponent puts up to that many cards from his ringside pile on the bottom of his arsenal. This card is -2 fortitude for each number named. Not however many they put back, but the number named. And it can only be reversed from hand. When successfully played, you have to discard 1 card. 10 for 6, it can be a 0 for 6, just another way to get some fortitude. Shoot Lockup. We're probably going to play from behind more often than not because the Patented Kick to the Guts are pretty easy to reverse because the reversal restriction off a Bionic Kicking Machine opens up Douchebag to them. And the restricted, so we're probably going to have a hard time getting those first couple of maneuvers through. But we do need to get to 9 unless our opponent's a legend. But if we have 5 less fortitude than them, this card can only be reversed from arsenal. We could turn the Tide into this card, which would be great. So it cannot be reversed from arsenal, or it can only be reversed from arsenal, and cannot be reversed. They'll probably restricted that to make it so that it can only be reversed from arsenal, but it'll allow you to get on the board. Full Nelson Slam Throwback. So when you play it, you remove up to 2 cards in your hand from the game. It's -2 damage for every card fewer than 2, so it becomes a 0 for 4. That turning up the heat looks for 5 damage or less, not printed. So we can turn up the heat into the full Nelson Slam. It can't be reversed. So if our opponent wants to burn their restricted on this, they can. But if they don't, it'll give us 8 fortitude, which is great. Stomp a Mudhole. Can only be played after successfully played maneuver. It cannot be reversed. 5 for 7 with 1 stun. Once successfully played, search your arsenal for Walk It Dry and put it in your hand. So generally what I like to do is after I've burned through all my kick to the guts, if I'm at 5 fortitude and I hide Austin 316, I'll put this card underneath Bionic Kicking Machine so that I can play this as my next card played, and it ignores the can only be played text. So then it's a cannot be reversed 5 for 7 strike. Um, Austin's Elbow Smash, 8 for 10, high risk that cannot be reversed, but it can only be played after successfully played 5 damage or greater maneuver. This is the other option that I go to with Austin 316, just to get some more harder to reverse fortitude. And then I built the deck based around the Stone Cold Stunner, so I gotta show the Stone Cold Stunner. This trademark did not age very well. It's still just boring. 30 for 25, 3 stun. It's -6 fortitude when played after a card with the word kick in the title. So it doesn't even have a lot of stun. Like 3 is kind of, there's regular maneuvers that have 3 stun now. But you can play it as low as 7 fortitude because of stunner. So yeah, that was my Stone Cold Meme Austin deck. Um, it's pretty fun. I really enjoyed playing it. Draw a lot of cards, get to throw some fun maneuvers. I've won one game with Stunner, not with the Stone Cold Stunner, with the card Stunner itself. Um, but yeah, give it a run, guys. If you guys liked this deck, please leave a comment below. Leave some feedback. Reach out to me. We can definitely talk about the deck a bit more. On the docket for the next video, I'm looking at doing Tajiri, which is a personal favorite of mine that I've made. It's pretty interesting the way it plays, and I've had a lot of success with it. So again, guys, I appreciate everything you guys do for me and for the support you guys have given me in these trying times, and have really made all of this worth doing. And I've really, really enjoyed my time with you guys. So have a wonderful rest of your night and enjoy yourselves.